himself like a knucklehead on a couple of occasions.
I have no idea what I'm doing.
Welcome back to the Chase Brewster Show. I am your host, Chase Brewster. Today we have a very, very, very special guest for the season 3 finale of the show. Without this guy, there would be no Chase Brewster Show podcast, as this guy has been a mentor and someone who's made me push my creativity from afar. This guy has made baseball extremely better for the youth and for guys that love everything outside of the lines of baseball. And he's someone that we all look up to, whether we know it or not. Bananas owner, author, keynote speaker, and creative influencer, Jesse Cole. How are you doing today, Jesse?
Excited to be with you, Chase, and great to hear that my craziness has influenced you a little bit.
Jesse, I had to stalk you a little bit and send a bunch of messages to get you on. And I know you probably regret promising me you'd come on, but I'm very, very thankful for these 30 minutes.
No, it's crazy. I respect and admire people who are making things happen. And so when I started, I did probably over 1,500 podcasts. I said yes to every single one. So I admire the hustle, and I'm glad to be with you.
Well, you always talk about, I want to start off, you talk about, Bill Veeck, Walt Disney, and P.T. Barnum being your mentors, guys that you never got to meet. I think it's very important, if you can't tell by now. I feel the same way about you. And I'm very appreciative for everything you've done. And that's not lip service. That's not whatever. It's not, I don't want to make it too weird, but very appreciative. By the time this airs, my book will come out. Nobody knows about it yet. But in chapter 2, I talk about keeping a great mentor circle and listed you. And I'll be sure to send you a copy for you to throw away. But man, it's a very interesting perspective you had that I never looked at people you didn't meet as mentors. So I kind of want to start into that. I want this podcast to be a little bit different. I've listened to all the ones you've done. They're all about the bananas. And while we love the bananas, I want this to be a little bit about you. And I want to start, take me through your process and how you look at people you've never met and how you grew and drew inspiration from those guys to really push your company to imaginary boundaries.
Well, it's a good question. I mean, the reality is I was forced to, and it's all mindset. I think everyone, the greatest leaders and the greatest visionaries, entrepreneurs are people that are hungry. And sometimes you just have it in you, and sometimes you're forced to be hungry. And I had a little bit of both, because when I first started as a 23-year-old general manager of our first team that, doesn't exist now, in a little small town in North Carolina, there was $268 in the bank account my first day, 3 full-time employees, payroll on Friday. And the team was failing, lost over $100,000 the previous year. And I was the GM of that team, because no one else would get that job. No one wanted that job. Like, it was a 23-year-old. You don't hire a 23-year-old to be a GM. And I got that job. So I was forced to be hungry. And so I just started reading everything, and not about the baseball business, but about the entertainment business, about visionaries, about people that know how to promote, P.T. Barnum, people that have amazing vision and make things happen like Walt Disney, and people that innovate more than anyone else in the game of baseball like Bill Veeck. And I just became endlessly curious. To this day, I have this wristband on me. It says endless curiosity. And I think that is such a huge trait. I'm looking right now. I've probably got 1,000 books right behind me, and I just go deep. And because I have to, I want to. And so I think everyone says you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. They don't have to be people directly around you. If you want to learn from the greatest, it's for me, it was Walt, PT, and Bill Veeck. And now it's, I look at Steve Jobs and Bezos and Amazon and, learn from SNL, and I learn from UFC and WWE and Cirque du Soleil. I just keep going deep. And I think that's what really helps me use what I learned from outside the industry and bring it into the industry. And it's just a hunger, man. If you got to want it, and it takes a long time. People don't realize no one knew who I was or what we were doing for 15 years while I was in this industry. 15 years of just learning. And now finally things have started to, take off for us.
You remember that moment when you thought, hey, nobody knows who I am. Nobody knows, so many teams hadn't worked in Savannah. And then you're dying to get people on your podcast. You're doing all this stuff. And then all of a sudden, you remember the moment when you're like, hey, I think this might work.
Well, it's crazy, but it was opening night. I mean, the reality is, yeah, the first 3 months we sold a handful of tickets. My wife and I had to sell our house, empty out our savings account. As you know, sleeping on an airbed. Grocery shopping with just $30 a week, a $20 bill and a $10 bill is not a lot of good food. It was tough. But when we named the team, it got a lot of attention, but a lot of criticism. But then we convinced enough people to come to opening night. And people don't know the behind the scenes story. What we did is when we announced our schedule, we announced a sellout. And people were like, what? They've never sold out a game. And we had only sold a handful of tickets, but we convinced the hospital to buy all the tickets for one game. We didn't announce it was just one person buying all the tickets, but we said, hey, this game's sold. They're like, what? And so people are like, wait, there's some demand. And so then we got enough people to come opening night, and it poured rain. We were doing all inclusive because it's fans first. Every ticket, all your burgers, hot dogs, chicken sandwiches, soda, water, popcorn, dessert, everything for $15. No ticket fees, no convenience fees. So people showed up. It poured. We almost ran out of food. The lines were forever. And the game didn't start for an hour and 40 minutes after it was supposed to. It was an 8:40 start. And I looked up and looked around, and not one fan had left. And at that moment, when I saw people in banana costumes getting poured in rain, I was like, this could be something. They believe enough. They watched as we put the banana nanas dancing in the rain. They watched as our players went in the crowd. They watched as we went nonstop entertaining while it was raining. And I was like, this could work. Because you go to any other major league stadium and it's raining, people are out of there. All right, they're leaving. They're not sitting through a rain delay. But they sat for us. And I think that was, more than anything, shown me a responsibility that I have to deliver the best experience they've ever had at a sporting event. And that night, looking up and seeing everyone there, it's like, we owe it to them to put on the best show they've ever seen. And that hasn't slowed us down one bit. And we keep trying to put the best show we can every night.
It's an awesome show. We were able to come this year. I know you meet people every day, but got to meet you. Vincent Chapman is from my hometown, so we were able to watch you guys play KC and got some tickets for LSU for next year. So we're excited to come back. I tell people all the time, I couldn't believe how good a baseball it was. I mean, you hear about the tricks and this and that, and which you're playing the Monarchs, which had some ex-big leaguers and whatever. But I mean, it was real baseball. I mean, really good, phenomenal. If the guys that are old school and they go, oh, this is whatever, the Globetrotters, yada yada. That people be amazed at how good the competition was.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's something we focused on. I mean, I think the reality is, I'm sure you probably were aware of Mr. Beast. And, when he's asked, he's the best YouTuber, best probably content creator in the world right now. And every time they ask him, what's motivating, he goes, I want to create the best video possible. I want to create the best video possible. Every video I want to get better. And if you go back 2 years ago, 2021, when we first launched Banana Ball, the level of baseball was nowhere near what it was. And we saw, hey, we're still entertaining like crazy, but we need more trick plays. We need backflips. We need crazy pitching. We need home runs. We need top prospects, and then the entertainment. And then you have a superior product. And it's a series of what Walt Disney calls plussing. He said, Disneyland is a living, breathing thing. It'll never be complete. We will continue to plus the show. And everything he did, he wanted to add value to. He wanted to make better. He wanted to plus. And that's the language we talked about. So I'm glad you noticed, because a lot of people's like, oh, it's a dancing baseball team. They're not that good. I'm like, bring it. All right. These guys can play and they can entertain. And that's what we're trying to do to create the greatest show possible. Well,
and you're obviously with the big leaguers, the ex-big leaguers, it's helping promote the whole concept of this could really work. The night I was there was some, Alex Gordon actually sat next to Gordon. He threw out the first pitch and, had some ex-big leaguers play. So, I mean, that's awesome too. Where you guys are at now from where you came from, it's crazy to me as a fan. So I'm sure it's got to be crazy to you as well that the Bananas, I mean, you started in 2016, if I'm correct. Mm-hmm. This thing's less than 10 years old. And I know you're a guy that keeps a vision. You got 2026 and 2027. You're adding new teams every year. What you can talk about, tell me how far you think this thing's going to go and what kind of crazy ideas you got coming down the pipeline.
Well, it was in 2020, we were doing the same thing. We were playing in the Coastal Plain League, college summer baseball, one of the lowest levels of baseball. We'd won the championship and, we were one of the top teams every year, always selling out every game. And, it was a good business, very solid business. And I realized in 2020 and our whole team as we got together and, we were forced to shut down for a bit and different capacities and all that. And we said, if we continue to do the same thing, we're going to continue to get the same results or worse. And we decided at that point we needed to abandon what got us to where we were as the most successful college summer, arguably minor league team there is in the country. And that's when we said we need to go all out in Banana Ball because it's better for the fans. And did we get criticized? You better believe it. You know, this is the joke. They care about this. They're greedy. We left what was a business model where the college players come in for free because you can't pay them back in this day, NCAA violation, to go to professional where we pay everybody and then travel with exorbitant costs. And we said, we're going to go in that model because it's better for the fans. And so it was a test, a 1-city world tour. The next year, 7 cities, then 33 cities. And now this year, 1 million fans, 6 major league stadiums, doing cruise ships, you name it. I think if you zoom out and you see what we've been doing, it's we're not just building the Savannah Bananas, we're building the game of banana ball. I believe in the game of banana ball because I've watched my 5-year-old son and kids in the neighborhood. That's all they play in the backyard. And they say, we got the point. And if you're walking around, they're like, points in baseball? What are you talking about? And it's like, let's do a showdown, Daddy. Let's do a showdown. Me versus you, me versus you. And I watch hundreds of kids, pictures, videos from parents all over the country being our players for Halloween and our cast and even dressing up in crazy yellow tuxedos, which is a whole nother conversation, which is ridiculous. But I saw that. So at that point, Chase, it was very easy to know that we got to keep building this game. So yeah, I mean, we have a big vision for the future. There's going to be more teams. There's going to be a lot of things that happen with banana ball, but we still have one fan at a time to focus on and create the greatest show possible and be the most fans first. If we keep doing that, every opportunity will open. I mean, our Party Animals team have more followers than every Major League Baseball team on TikTok. Our Party Animals, I mean, they're our second team. Not everyone knows that they almost got 3 million followers. And then our second team, the Firefighters, they're now growing. We haven't even really released much because you're building momentum on the game of banana ball, not just momentum on the Savannah Bananas.
How many teams do you think? I mean, do you envision a whole league? Do you envision games being played where you're not there?
There's already been, and there will be 17 this year that I'm not there. You have to build something bigger than yourself. If you really want to make an ultimate impact, you have to build something bigger than yourself. And we have such a team of passionate people that care. You mentioned Vincent. I mean, literally what he was doing from his full-time job and flying to every city, and everyone else that, I mean, you know, our young professor, our announcer and host on the field, literally driving 2.5 hours every night back and forth from Jacksonville to be there. And now he's now full-time with us. The commitment to our fans, they have all earned the opportunity to perform in front of more people and without just one person. You know, the pep band and the breakdancing coach Maceo, and now the Party Animals are doing their own headlining tour. So I'm not going to be a main part of that. I'm not the guy on the mic. That's the Party Animals. Will I be there? Will I be there? You better believe it. Will I take probably 15 to 30 pages of notes? You better believe it. Everything I'm going to look at, how do we make the greatest party in sports for them? Whereas the Bananas are the greatest show in sports. And so, yeah, I think, we'll zoom out and we've got, I think most people, if you just pay attention every year and you see where we're going and how we're announcing things, if you kind of put the pieces together, it's like Taylor Swift with Easter eggs. She puts all these things like this is what she's trying to do. It's pretty easy to see where we're going.
We talked about where we're going and how successful the Bananas are. As a fan of Jesse Cole, I want to know, because there's zero information out there. Take me through the Gastonia days with the Grizzlies. What was different about a young Jesse Cole? You're a visionary. You're ate up with studying people and studying how to be successful. Obviously, it didn't hit the same as Savannah. You were successful. You took it from $200 in the bank to uber successful. You were successful on the field, off the field, yada, yada. But it wasn't the same, at least as the outside looking in. While you wore the yellow tux, it wasn't the same yellow tux.
Yeah.
Take me through those days in Gastonia. And was that just prepping for Savannah? Did Savannah, the city, buy in more to Jesse as a person? Take me through some of those moments and when it became a show to when it became you.
I mean, it was a show day one in Gastonia. I mean, we had players dancing our first game in Gastonia back in 2008. I had 4 players doing the jump on it dance. We had grandma beauty pageants and flatulence fun nights and salute to underwear nights and dig to China nights and pregnant nights. We did all that. But the big difference is we launched the Bananas from scratch. The Gastonia Grizzlies were there for 7 years previously, and they were a failure. They were the lowest in attendance in the country and losing thousands of dollars. And so when you take something over, it's a gradual, because there's a perception. So there was a perception the Grizzlies are boring, they're terrible. So, we went from 200 fans a game to 1,000 fans a game to 1,200 to 1,500, 1,800 to 2,000. By 2013, I think it was 2,500 a game, which was 3rd or 4th in the country in attendance. And that was that was, 5, 6, 7 years of climbing. But still, it was the Gastonia Grizzlies. There's enough Grizzly teams out there. It wasn't unique from a branding standpoint. We had players dance and we were trying things left and right. And it was an old stadium and just, it hadn't, it didn't have that opportunity. We went to Savannah, Savannah Bananas, the Banana Nanas, split, breakdancer coach, the banana baby, the banana band, all inclusive tickets. We were able to start from scratch from the customer experience. What was the perfect fan experience and create that? And still, we weren't a national brand in 2016, 2017, 2018. Some people knew of us, but it wasn't until Banana Ball and inventing a new sport with fans catching foul balls for outs that it took to the next level. And still, there's people all over the world have no clue who we are because we haven't gone to that next level yet. It was all a step. And I think people need to look at everything as a step. People look at their work as either a success or a failure. Look at your work as an experiment. Everything is an experiment. What are we learning from this and where are we going next? And so Gastonia, we did hundreds of experiments with no one even noticing because it was a smaller market, smaller team. Now our experiments in Savannah are on a much bigger scale, but we need to continue to do those experiments if we want to take it to the next level. So Gastonia was a huge learning experience, 10 plus years. Every day I learned. I was a young leader. I probably didn't lead as well as I should. I wasn't as focused. I was saying yes to everything. Now I try to say no to as many things as possible and say yes to the right things. And from a leader standpoint, I didn't have the clear vision. It was like, let's do this, let's do this, let's do this. Now it's like, this is where we are going. We are building the game of banana ball for the future generations of kids and fans. And so now it's clear and it's taken a while to get there.
Well, you talk about saying no. I'm very much appreciative that you said yes to this again. So, you talk about saying no and saying yes. Again, just another personal question. There's a lot of articles about you, right? There's no Wikipedia. I wanted to brush up as a guy who's, I know more about you than I should.
You have to really make it, Chase, to get a Wikipedia. It takes a while. You have to really, really make it to get a Wikipedia.
Well, for $2.75, I could have donated. I could have left a note, so I could have said, hey. But look, you've been in Forbes, you've been in Esquire, you've been in New York Times, ESPN. You've done everything that a guy, from the Northeast that played at Wofford could do. Anything stick out particular as something that means a little bit more to you than others?
No, yeah. I mean, it's what, my wife and to understand, she worked for Ripken Baseball, was in minor league baseball. She joined us, became our director of fun. We fell in love. We had the same passion for making a difference. And, I learned quickly. We had our biological son, Maverick, who's amazing. And then she started learning about the challenges with foster care in America, and with the fact that there's 400,000 kids in the U.S. who don't have a permanent home. And she started sharing this with me over and over again. She's like, Jesse, we have to do something. Just like you always say, it's, one fan at a time. Every game is someone's first game. We got to do something. So in 2020, in the middle of the chaos, we got licensed to be foster parents, and we got our first call. And our young daughter joined us when she's 2.5, and she's now 5, and we're getting ready to adopt her. And then we had another young daughter, 6 days old, in the NICU, battling every drug imaginable. She joined us, and so we became foster parents. We realized even more of the challenges going on, and so we said we have to do something. And we launched a nonprofit called Bananas Foster, and we launched it this past year. And to see at different stadiums recognizing families that have had 200 foster kids in their home that have adopted and get standing ovations in front of 15,000 fans. And to see that each city, more people are joining to become foster families is a different meaning and purpose. With the Bananas, we bring people together. Luckily, millions of people over the last few years, they come together. But seeing a family come together, that is truly special. So any accomplishment selling out major league stadiums, whereas today as we record this, we just sold out Houston Astros, the Minute Maid Park. It's crazy to think what we're doing from that level, but that pales in comparison to what we can do for one kid, one family. And hopefully one day we're going to have a wait list in this country of families wanting to be foster families. That will be the ultimate accomplishment, we believe.
Absolutely. And everything you and Emily are doing with Bananas Foster is obviously awesome. And we keep up on LinkedIn. I actually started LinkedIn because that was the only way I could, listen to the 1 minute of wisdom. So we keep up with everything. You talked about saying no and always saying yes. When I met you, again, you probably don't remember, you were exhausted. You were exhausted before the game. I could tell.
I lost my voice in Kansas City. So I was sick and lost my voice, but I was trying my best.
Your dad was there. It was kind of cool to see him. He actually sat right behind us. How exhausting does it get for you? How as much as you love it and life's great and you could have never dreamed of this, how exhausting at times does it get to be the man in the yellow hat?
Oh, 100%. Well, it depends on the level. What you're referring to as exhaustion. I mean, the reality is, when you do back-to-back games and you're there early in the morning and rehearsals for a few hours, then you're on the mic, then you're on stage for hours. Then you're talking afterwards of the game. You're working on how we're going to plus the show for the next night. And then you're getting back at 1 or 2 o'clock. And then your kids are getting up at 5 and 6 in the morning. And so you're looking at 4 to 5 hours. And then you're back on. You've got to deliver a better show. And again, every game's someone's first game. So literally that next show, you better be as good as you were the night before. Yes, it takes a toll on your body. But the reality is what I look for. And this is when I really struggle, Chase. And I think anybody, many people probably have gone through this. People say they feel burnt out. They feel burnt out. They're tired. They're exhausted. And I've had those feelings. But I realized when I did, I was doing things that didn't give me energy. For instance, financials. I have no idea what's in our bank account right now with the bananas. Our president tells us we're very healthy. I go, great. All right. That wears me out looking at those numbers. Operations around the stadium, food and bev, selling sponsorships, which we used to do back in the day. We eliminated all that. Wore me out. So if my day had any of those, I was tired by the end of the day. But now I said, you know what? I'm going to create my energy list. What gives me energy? And I realized it all fits in 3 buckets: creating, sharing, and growing. So in the morning, I have my idea book, and I just literally write down ideas, come up with promotion ideas, come up with new things that we can do with our players. Fires me up. Sharing. I can get on a talk with our team, share the vision, talk about what we want to do. Right here with you, this gives me energy. Sharing. Growing. I have all these books. I'm learning passionately, about Les Schwab this morning and what he did with his tire company and how he grew that. It was so fans first. Hours taking notes. That fires me up. So if every day I'm doing things that give me energy, when I go pick up my kids from school, I'm going to be the best dad I can be because I had energy all day for what I was doing. So I challenge everyone. It's like, hey, look at what you're doing. Does it give you energy or not? And if it doesn't, either eliminate it or delegate it. And so I'm fortunate now, like you mentioned, Taylor, like scheduling stuff and all those things that just wears me out. I've been able to now delegate that, and I focus on just the things that give me the most energy. So right now, you can probably feel the energy coming from me. Yeah. That I think is so important. So even when you saw me in Kansas City, if I'm meeting with fans and creating, coming up with ideas, I still had energy, and because it still fired me up because that's what I was doing.
Well, luckily for me, I was able to sneak in a little bit early, so I was actually there. So I don't know that Jesse Cole, the showman, was out yet. I think you thought you still had an hour, but I was able to see Vince and everybody was meeting. You had like meetings in the stands. I don't know that you were a part of it, but you saw like the professor, yep. And I just thought this is a business. Obviously, it's a business. We know it's a business, whatever. But when you start seeing people meet in the stands before games, there's a level of pride that comes with that. That's a responsibility, right? So I was very impressed with the things that I looked around and saw that you don't get to see on a YouTube clip or TikTok. And as a fan, I was very appreciative of that.
That's great to hear.
When you talked about taking notes, I have 3 things in my office, and I wanted to tell you because I wanted to talk about being an author a little bit. I don't know if you remember saying this, but this was out of Find Your Yellow Touch. I got your business is an extension of you, which I always try to remember.
Yeah.
Done is better than perfect is a big Jesse Cole mantra, and you can't create everything by yourself. Mm-hmm. That came out of one book. You wrote 3 highly successful books. Take me through that process. Did you enjoy it? Did you enjoy the podcast? I know you didn't necessarily enjoy coaching in the Cape. Take me through all the things you've done that involve baseball but have nothing to do with the actual ball, and what do you enjoy the most?
Well, I mean, you talk about the books, so think about that. It goes into creating, sharing, and growing. So all of those aspects. And, again, looking at P.T. Barnum, I mean, he was writing autobiographies and he writing books back in the 1800s. He was unbelievable on how he shared. Bill Veeck wrote 3 or 4 books. Walt Disney, he was on camera so many times sharing what he believed in and talking about Epcot in the future and what he saw. I think all great leaders are very great at communicating and sharing what they believe in. And so I learned from them. It's like anything I've learned, maybe that could help someone. So I wanted to share that. So that gives me energy. Coaching in the Cape, I realized very quickly that was not an energy giver for me because I realized I couldn't have control. I'm sitting there just coaching and bored, and I really couldn't make an impact. I was an assistant coach. For me, I wanted to be able to do anything that can make an impact. And so, everything. I look at podcasts. That was a great chapter in my life. I did 100 podcasts, and I learned that was growing. I interviewed people I looked up to, every author, every speaker, entrepreneur I could. I reached out, asked every question, and grew from them. So, I look at everything not always as like, hey, am I going to do this the rest of my life? But is this a chapter that's going to help me, that I'm going to enjoy? And that's a way to also give. And, not give back, just give. And I felt like the podcast, I can learn, but between my questions and what they're sharing, that's a way to give, just like you're doing right now. And same thing with the book. So on the back of our Fans First playbook, it says, be patient in what you want for yourself, but be impatient in how much you give to others. And I think about that on a daily basis. And is what I'm doing today not just something that I love, that gives me energy, but is also giving to someone else in a way? And so if I'm able to do that, that's that hits it all for me.
Will the podcast ever come back?
I get asked that a lot. For me, focus is the biggest thing. Think about where our company and team is. We were playing in front of 100,000 fans 2 years ago. We're in front of 1 million. We've 10 times in 18 months. And that's 10 times in the staff, the players, the operation. We just bought a huge new building. So when I look at where I can make the biggest impact, it's not necessarily on the podcast and say, even if we got 50,000, 100,000 downloads or whatever, it's actually with our team, because that's now impacting millions of more people. And so that's where I look at where I spend my time on. It's get to a point where it didn't give me energy, because I was at that point doing all the research. I was spending hours writing down all the things I wanted to discuss. And so I'd be like, I wasn't looking forward to the conversation as much as I normally would, because of the amount of work that it just didn't fire me up. And I think that's important. It's okay to quit things. It's okay to quit things if that's not what is unbelievably giving you energy, because you're never going to be the best in the world at it if it's not giving you that energy to work harder than anyone else in the world. And so I believe what we're doing in creating the greatest show in sports and being fans first and bringing Banana, I believe we can be the best in the world at it. And that's where I'm going to put my focus on.
Well, you talked about the books and all that stuff. Next, what you need is you need a master class where somebody sits in on some of these OTT meetings. And, you need a way to let the world sit in on some of this exclusive.
And if there's
Jesse
demand,
Cole
maybe we'll
thing.
do it. If there's demand, maybe we'll do it. We've had a lot of people come to us about, hey, you got to start doing Fans First Academy, business and doing all that stuff and sharing that. And we've dabbled in it. But again, when you look at the ultimate vision, if you really want to achieve something, it's focus. Focus, focus, focus. I've seen that more with anybody. I mean, Walt Disney, you think about it, he focused so hard on the animations for 10, 20 years, dominated that. Then it was the movies. And then it was obsession with Disneyland. I mean, obsession. That's the only thing he focused on in the world was Disneyland, 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 Disneyland. And then once he accomplished that with 10 successful years, Disney World, Disney World, Disney World, Disney World, Disney World. It's an obsession and focus. And I'm telling you, I think that's huge, because we have so many people that are entrepreneurs and people that want to do things. They just get excited by so many things. And I was one of them. I did that for 15 years. And now I've seen an ultimate impact that's, a multiple of what we were doing before because of that simple focus.
Jesse, we end every show with what I call 5 moments of truth. You can answer these as long or as short as you want, but we got 3 minutes, so you do what you want with your time.
All right.
Question 1, give me the best advice you've ever received, and from who?
Oh, jeez. This is going to be tougher, and I got 4 more questions after this, but I get so much advice, from so many of the leaders I mentioned before. But, my dad, when I was a kid, he said, when I came up to bat, he said, Jess, swing hard in case you hit it. But that mindset stayed with me to take swings and swing hard. But it really wasn't just that one-liner from my dad. It was my dad battling cancer when in 2013, 2 forms of cancer. And every day I asked my dad how he was, and my dad said, Jess, I'm great. Except for one day he said he was good. And I found out from my mother that he didn't know if he was going to make it that night. It was the sickest he's ever been, throwing up, and the chemo just wore him out to another level. But he said he was good. The next day he said, I'm great. And I've talked to my dad about this afterwards. He says, positive mindset's everything. And the doctors at Beth Israel Hospital said he was the most positive patient they've ever had. And that's the reason why he defeated the cancer. So I look at, advice. It's not just what you say, swing hard in case you hit it. It's not just a little, saying. It's how you do things and how you act on a daily basis. And that positivity has driven me more than anything.
Absolutely. Give me the biggest mentor you've ever had.
My dad's my hero. My dad, you can look at I've hundreds of books about Steve Jobs and Walt Disney and everything, but my dad's my hero and how he lives his life. And he still shows up, as you mentioned earlier, at every game, traveling. He's the first one to give me a hug and tell me that he's proud of me. And I'm still a kid trying to make my dad proud. And now to an extent, I'm trying to make my kids proud. So, but learned a lot from him. He's definitely my biggest hero and mentor.
So he goes to every game?
He tries to as many as possible. He'll fly at least every other weekend.
Good for him. Give me the next up and coming Jesse Cole. Give me the most creative person you know.
Oh, geez. You can't have me single out our staff like that, because I'm seeing it every single day. The people we're working with, entertainment, and Zach, and our director of entertainment, and our creative team, and Kara and Yvonne and Ian and Zach Bro and Caitlin and from a creative standpoint, we have some unbelievable, but then you just have some our whole leadership team is just so driven. So you don't get me in trouble if I start going, Patrick, Marie, and Carson, and everyone that's related to our team. I can't do that. But I think the one thing we look for is hunger. And if you see someone that's truly hungry, they could be a superstar.
Give me your personal and professional goals for the rest of this year and for 2024.
I think a lot of people set goals every year. I used to do it. I am solely focused on doing what I love, what gives me energy, and being the best leader I can be. And we have a vision of where we're going with the team, and we're going there. We're fortunate 2 million people on the lottery list, so I don't have very specifics. It's every day, do what I love, do what gives me energy, and give more than I ask for in return. And if I do that, things take care of themselves.
Last question, and we'll end it with this, Jesse. I started this podcast to be a part of change, and I say every week, I don't know exactly what change looks like, but I know I want to leave this place better than I found it. We want to change, we want to inspire, we want to motivate, the people underneath us. So as we leave, you talked about Banana Foster and some of those things, kind of open-ended here, but how can we all be a part of change to make this place better than we found it?
We need more people with passion and love and excitement for what they do, and more people that want to spread joy and spread fun in the world. We're hungry for it. If you want to create change, bring passion and energy and love to spreading joy and not spreading venom and complaining. Spread the joy. And so I think it's every day people say, how can I lift someone else up? How can I build someone else up? How can I be an energy giver to someone else today? Will collectively change the world in such an amazing way.
Jesse, I can't thank you enough for coming on the Chase Brewster Show. This is kind of my I made it moments for the podcast. This was the goal when we were listening to your podcast and we kind of got started, was to have you on the show. So I'm uber excited. I'm uber thankful, man. And I wish you nothing but success. And I look forward to hopefully seeing you in March when I'll be out to watch the Bananas play. And if I can ever help in any way, please let me know.
I love it. Well, congrats for making it happen. People talk a lot. It's the ones that go out and start doing. Just start. And then the people that actually win. So congrats on this. Congrats on the book, and keep making a difference, my friend.
Thanks, Jesse. I appreciate it.